ever gone to a haunted house or like experienced a dream with a visit with someone who died, like your own experience yet?
More in dreams. I don't get people like I'm not awake and oh wow. Except once, right after my dad died, I did say like prove it. And I
Right.
saw something move that shouldn't have
Right.
moved. So I was like, all
Uh-huh.
right, you proved it. Um I
That's
find
funny.
I know. I was like, all right, done. I have sleep paralysis, right? And so I feel like that's a weird state. And from that, and that tripped me out as a kid, but from that I was like, oh, it feels like a bit of a precursor to lucid dreaming. So I feel like I get more stuff in dreams with
Right.
people. The
You're
other
easier to
thing though,
access. Yeah.
yeah, I think so. And the other thing about someone like me, I'll just admit it, I think I do things to kind of cover it and the energy up. Like I think weight can be a protection from
Hmm.
psychic energy. What do you say about that?
You know, for you, you're first of all, you're a Scorpio. Scorpio rules death. I mean, of course you were in the craft. Hello. It also rules
I
the
did
occult.
call that to
Again,
me.
right? It's your energy. You exude it, but it also rules death. A lot of mediums have Scorpio in their chart. So for you, I know you keep saying I don't do what you do, but you could if you wanted to, but you may not be comfortable with it because you're a Scorpio. You're the fixed water sign.
Yeah.
So you were born with borders and boundaries, even though you're a water sign. So, like Pisces
Uh,
and Cancer have no borders and boundaries, they have to create their
Valid.
own. But you
Yeah.
have yours. And
Yeah.
so you like things in sort of black and white, right and wrong. Like we see things very clearly for what they are. We see people for what they are and who they are. I'm a fixed sign. I'm the fixed air sign. So that's how I
Oh,
relate to
that's
you
right.
there.
Us fixed signs can be tough.
Yeah. And we know it. We know it,
Yeah.
but we're the ones that other signs come to when they're like, I've been hurt and I need help. It's like, okay, I'm there. I'm gonna break down the door. We're the people that go in. We're the ones that'll step in a bad situation. So they need fixed energy because that's
I
us.
also love your style as a fixed sign person. In the few readings I've seen, 'cause it's not like I'm privy to them, but you're pretty straightforward. And that to me is a number one clue that, like, oh, pay
Yeah.
attention when you have someone who's being straightforward
Right.
and the energy
Yeah.
feels really clear because it's hitting me here, not,
Right. And
somewhere else.
you, they should actually, we should do this, but I'll never do it because I just don't want to deal with people's comments. But it would be a lot of fun to watch some of the, like I've watched some of the mediums on, say, Netflix or those streaming sites,
Yeah.
and I can tell that it's highly produced because I can tell by what the sitter, the person getting the reading, is saying and what the medium is saying. Like it's so overly
Oh,
produced. I'm like, that's not sincere. Like it doesn't ring true. But also judging people on TikTok because they're all young
oh my gosh.
and watching them and being like, yeah, I call bullshit. That's not true. And then doing a video responding to them, teaching them how to read astrology or tarot correctly
No, I'll do
because
that
they
any
don't
day.
know. It's
Any
amazing.
any day. But I went to a building that's allegedly, haunted here, and
Yeah.
I get more uncomfortable energy, which is probably why I don't, develop it more.
Right.
But I also think because I play, one of my superpowers is immaturity, to be honest. So
I
I
like
feel like
it.
I'm just now getting mature enough actually to be able to synthesize all those energies. If I'm being real, it was,
Right.
too much, as well as being an actor when I was doing more acting. It's like I'm already trying to synthesize, make this other character between, and who am I, this character, all these
Right.
energies coming in. It took me a while to be able to
Right.
get that together. And I'm saying
I
that
mean,
to people who are like judging themselves. I'm like,
I mean, you were a young actor, and being a Scorpio is actually an actress is a perfect job for a Scorpio because Scorpio's transformation, and so you were able to take on characters' roles and believe it in the
yeah.
most real way, an authentic way. So you would be, I mean, just phenomenal at that. But once I think when actors and actresses are child stars, and I'm friends with a couple of child stars, And so I've seen the
I
outcome of
bet.
that. They
People
are
can
so
get stuck at the age they
yes,
became famous at. That's what I
yes,
always say. You can get
arrested
mentally stuck.
development, that can
Yes.
happen, that can happen. And it seems like they're waiting for the next role to take on. And I think you have to get older as an actor or actress to learn to who you really are aside
Yes,
from the
that's what I'm
characters
saying. It took
and
me a
develop
while to
that.
It
Right,
definitely took me a while to get to that. Like, who am I in my
right.
grounded self? And, for people who are going through disappointments, like, I would say, because when things slowed down, I hit a certain age, I was in my 40s and things slowed down. Not a shocker for a Hollywood actress, by the way. It literally happens to almost everyone except for a few, people. But it was really disappointing, right? And so that's why I brought up Stages of
Do you
Grief.
want to stop? I mean, do you really want to stop? Because now's actually a really good time for you to
No.
be putting your
No, I
resumes
wanted you
out there.
both. I wanted you both. But what I was going to bring up is like I was a little resentful, right? I'm like, oh, it's not fair,
Yeah,
whatever bullshit we
right.
go through.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
as well as I had some health stuff, whatever. It's like, "Brr." And then I realized that it had shifted me into getting to know myself better. It had given me time to like, no, not be anyone else for a moment, just be myself,
Right.
which was really good. And then that led me to developing my tarot stuff even more and led to the books, which was the ultimate thing. Years ago,
Hmm.
a psychic, I think, approached me in New York when I was like 18, and she was like, "You're gonna write a book." And I was like, "I'm an actor." No. But I think they were correct. We were in a bookstore, by the way, and I think they
Right.
were correct because I couldn't have written the book and then the next
Hmm.
one
Right.
without that challenging time, I think is my point. So I'm not saying to anyone to love your challenging times at all,
Right.
but I do think generally getting stuck in, what? I can't believe this is happening to me. Again, moving out of that into,
Yeah.
oh, this is happening to me.
Do,
How do
doesn't
I
it
want
seem
to?
doesn't it kind of seem like the momentum of the challenges though are necessary in order to have the spring back like to
Yeah.
achieve? And so even though the challenges can be painful and we learn something from them and work through them the best we can, every time I've had a massive challenge in my life, something good comes from it. So with
That's what I'm
challenges,
saying. Yeah.
right? So with challenges, if people were to look at a challenge and say, instead of, oh my God, what's going to happen? And immediately go to the worst case scenario in their head,
Here.
right? That fear that they would look at the challenge and say, come up with a plan, a systematic plan on how they're going to solve that problem.
But it's hard to
And
make the plan if you're stuck in disbelief. So that's why I'm always like, okay, moving out of that into making the plan.
I
Yeah.
mean, being back in acting right now actually feels right for you. And I'm just saying that
Oh, good. I'll take that. No, I love
so
acting. I would like to continue acting as well. I do like from having a little bit of a break. What it did help with was I don't think I ever had like that desperation that some people have that's off-putting and why they won't work as actors. But there
yeah,
was like this, just it was so big like me and so that a
right.
little bit of that is gone. And thank goodness
Do
because
you you have such a cult following for the craft. Like
yeah.
people in the ethereal, like they're obsessed. I don't know why they don't bring the original cast back together and
But
make
I
a
think that was
sequel.
here's the thing, Allison, Gen Xer, who's younger than me, but Gen Xer, they made one
What?
and they made one and decided that they didn't need us in it. And I think that was a mistake because what they
It's a
forgot
huge
was
mistake.
people like you who were young when you saw it
Yeah.
grew up and now have your
Yeah.
own children or whatever. So I think they forgot the power and I always say, why do people ignore grown women? We have more spending power now than we ever had when we were 20-year-olds.
Absolutely.
I get locked them into brand identity. That's why they do that. But ultimately I'm going to spend more money on a suit jacket now or my makeup or
Right.
whatever it is than I ever did. So I do think they made a mistake. I think
That's
someone
a
else should
huge mistake. That's
yeah,
like
yeah. Crucible.
Ghostbusters. They remade Ghostbusters with the female actresses, all
I
comedians that I absolutely adore, by the way. But I'm like, at least draw a storyline where those are the daughters of the original Ghostbusters that are in it. And they
well
didn't
that's
do that.
listen. That's what they did with the craft. They made them, they didn't, I think they made one of them, Firuza Balk's daughter, in it. But again, I think they missed
You
a
know, there's
boat.
something to be said though for you being the mothers and the strong mother witches coming back because you have to save your girls because they don't have the magic on the level that you do would have given such a layer to
Well,
a
I also
sequel.
think, listen, not to knock them, because I know everybody worked really hard on that film, and it just has nothing to do with me. It's a
I
different
haven't seen the
film.
sequel.
You haven't
Anybody?
even heard of it. It's your daughters maybe have. It's a different film, but what I think they missed is like what The Craft really captured, and I appreciate that you get it for what it is, a silly Hollywood movie. The angst of the 90s and of girl friendships
Yeah.
and of how
Yeah.
tricky teenage friendships can be. This
Yeah.
one I heard it's all like everybody just loves each other. And I'm like, that's hard because
No,
that's
people want to see the conflict, the fight between good and evil. It always
also
comes down to that,
high
you
school is
know?
vicious too.
Well,
So
I
I
kind of
think the
love
fact that
this. We have you and I have the crossover. I've got the craft and we've got the medium here, and like we join forces.
no, but this is why, again, for people listening, you can't believe how excited I was because I've followed her for a while and then commented on her, like, I like everybody leave comments, and I'm like, I'm sure she's like, who's this asshole? And so I just love that she was like, oh, I actually have, seen your stuff.
Yeah,
And as well, like, you're someone who goes off energy. So I'm pretty sure if Allison had felt my energy and it was shifty, she wouldn't have invited me on. You know what I
absolutely
mean?
true. Accurate, accurate.
And as
And
well, but if
it's an
her
eight
energy had been
year.
shifty, I wouldn't have wanted to come on.
Oh, that's so funny. I know. No, you can never be too safe. I get that. I get that. Making sure it was me too, that it
I
wasn't
did
some.
because I was reached and I was like, everybody knows I comment on her page.
That's
As
so
you know,
funny. So this
I'm just
year in numerology is an 8 year. Don't waste it. This is a year of success and transformation. It's Scorpio's finest energy at work. Get your resume back together, get a headshot, and just put it
thank you
in
for
and roll
that.
the dice. Say to the universe, if it's meant to happen, I'm here for it, and
No, I
just
love
let it
that.
ride. Yeah.
I really received that because, I started working again a couple of years ago. I did an Amazon show and it was so fun. Great people.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
fun. But see, part of why I brought up your daughter in Hollywood is like, oh God, Hollywood. And
I know.
so I'm trying to call in the right jobs. Not every job is going to be as lovely as that one with fabulous people, but I'm too old for that shit, to quote Danny Glover, you
But
know?
you're
I just
actually not because it's people in our generation that are the power figures in the sagas that are going on television and in streaming. And so I was thinking, we were talking about Oprah. What about OWN? Did you ever put? She's got some scripted soap opera nighttime shows you'd be perfect for.
That's true. I have a really good manager. I didn't have a team for a while. Also like a health stuff, but da, 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 da. So it just took me a minute to actually just get myself back into a place where I was like, yes, I can do this. And I've been slowly but surely also working on my fitness. But I'm
Sure.
the only person in Hollywood not on Ozempic, I want you to know. I'm
They all
so
say they're not
envious.
on it, but we know better.
No,
So
I'm
fu-
all the housewives. Are you kidding
oh
me?
my God. Yeah, girl, please.
I don't even watch, by the way. I stopped watching years ago when a boyfriend was like, you know what they sound like? Squawk, 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 squawk. And I was like, he's right. They do sound like that.
It's so negative and toxic, and it can be
Yes.
summed up in a few sentences of I hate you. Let's have lunch and talk about it.
And
And
if I
we
don't hate
talked
you, yeah,
right, we
I'll
talked
find a
about it, but
reason.
we're still not totally good. I know, let's take a girls trip. Everybody
No,
takes the girls trip and the fights ensue. Like it's so predictable. I'm bored.
somebody asked me if I would do a real, not that they would ask me, but a housewife thing. And I was like, no, because I'm the person who's like, you guys, let's work it out. Let's like, she's just hurt from a wounding from childhood. Like they don't want that. I don't
Right.
want that. I don't want that for myself
Right.
either. My question for you is, you had Medium, you had all this stuff. You must have been approached so many times to do a TV show of your own, not just a podcast, but like your own. So why haven't you? I can
I
guess,
f-
but like,
I filmed some pilots.
oh, you did.
I did. In one of them, we found human remains with the cadaver dogs. It was me working crimes, and I'm thinking, well, that's got to be enough. We got the guy that was there when the woman and her baby were murdered for sure. Just failed a polygraph test on air. I got that done. So I'm like sure that it was going to be picked up, but this was back in 2009, right around there, and
Those were
it was
tough
amazing.
times.
It
No,
was,
I
but
only
it
say those
was,
were tough times because I remember
yeah,
being like, wow, it's not enough to be a woman bounty hunter who's
right.
6'2" anymore. Now she was a
No,
witch
right,
bounty hunter. And I was like,
right,
oh,
right,
you
right.
have to be 12 different layers of
Yeah,
things. You don't have to be
right.
psychic. Now you've got to
Well,
like be a tap dancing
and
psychic.
have you walking up and down the stairs in your high heels and nylons so they can get that shot. And I'm like, I
Oh,
work
right.
murders. So it was a fantastic pilot episode. I titled it Soul Evidence. And
Oh,
I assembled a team of the best in the industry of homicide detectives, psychics, myself, and we went out into the field and we worked cases, and it was great. But I got to tell you, I've been around Hollywood a long time too, and the network that was filming it, it was a boys' club. It's
oh,
simple as
yeah.
that. It came down to they didn't want to spend the money. The network itself has more of a male following. I'll say it at Sci-Fi. Has more of a male
Yeah,
following, and and so they went with a reality show based on a medium, and it was canceled after like 3 episodes.
no doubt. Wait,
So
why do I, okay, but like, I'm like, it's shocking you don't do your own YouTube series then and make, a lot of YouTube money, whatever.
I started one called Buried Emotions during the pandemic. I read people via Zoom, and it was people that were murdered or committed suicide. So you can watch those episodes there. And we could have taken that to another level and filmed it where I actually go to the places and do the readings. But
Yeah.
it just seems diluted at this point. John
What do
Edwards
you
done
think of
it.
all the ghost hunting shows? Because I hate them.
I know. I know. Actually, it's so funny that you would say that. I have seen the Osbournes. That one amuses me just because of the Osbournes' personalities. You know what
Sure,
I'm saying?
sure. Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
for the rest of them, I've actually had a ghost hunter on my show, and I said to him, "What would you do if you actually came face to face with
Had a
one
real ghost show up.
and they could do so like I'm like, you guys actually don't do anything but show orbs or a little tracer of light." And then I said to him, I said, I don't actually like what you do, and I'm going to tell you why. I said, if there's a spirit that's been haunting this woman that they love photographing in the cemetery, has been haunting it for like 100 years. I said, has anybody ever brought a medium there to ask her what's wrong? Has
Right.
anyone thought that that spirit might be tormented?
No,
Maybe
they're
her
too busy
baby,
bullying the spirit. I know you can
right?
hear me.
Oh
I
my
just
God,
the
the
way they
living.
talk is
Oh
so.
God, I sort
All
of want
right,
to go
thank
to
you.
that cemetery so I could solve her problem so she can go and be on the other
No,
side and they'll have no one to
if
photograph.
you're ever ghost hunting in California, you have to let me know. Like, I would love to go to a haunted location with this lady. I'm serious.
I'll go to a haunted location with you. I mean, I'd do
I
that
would,
with you. That could be fun. We could do our own
I,
our
I
own
would
little
love,
filming.
I would absolutely love to do that with you. No, I
Stay the
really
night,
mean that.
flip some tarot, drink some midnight margaritas.
Exactly. No, I'm not even kidding about that. But the reason I asked about that is because, again, we live in this age. When I was a kid, I had, again, when my TV broke, it was 3 channels because I was too cheap for cable,
Right,
right? Now there's
right.
60 kabillion
It's too
channels,
much.
and there's
Yeah.
there's a psychic or a medium to fit
Mm-hmm.
every desire. And I say with tarot readings and YouTube, not to get I
Mm-hmm.
hate my soapboxes, but I can't help it. Like, here's the thing: you have to look at them as I'm picking a TV show to watch because
Mm-hmm.
if the reading is he's coming, they're coming back. I can
Right.
find a million readings. I can find a million people who pull out the death card and they're like, they're coming back, all the negative
Right.
cards. tell you they're coming back. But if I'm, let's say, further over that person and I'm
Hmm.
feeling independent, I can find the reading that says, you're doing great on your own, girl.
Right.
So it's just learn to, like Allison says, be a medium yourself or get a cheap, I'm not even saying my deck, get a
Right.
deck and
Right.
start pulling your own cards. It will be much more,
You learn by trial and error. That's the best. Like the
and
world is our is our classroom and we're the students and you're supposed to
yeah.
learn by being through different scenarios so you know the feeling, the different nuances for these different situations. Like
And be okay with failing. You're not gonna like a lot
right.
of. I remember when I first started yoga, one of my friends dragged me. She's like, "I'm doing this yoga class with me," and I was like, "Okay." Third level, I died several times because I'm not bendy, right? So I tend to jump in like a lot of people will jump in and start with a 12 card spread. That's fine. That's fine for a lot of you. But for some of
Right.
you, if that's overwhelming, man,
Yeah.
don't do that.
Right.
Just
Yes.
start. It's okay to start with one card, and it's okay to not even, you got that wrong, that's fine. Try it
Now
again.
I have to introduce you to Margaret Jameson. She does my Earth Magic course. She's my professor of Earth Magic, and she does potions and spells. And
Oh, wow.
she's a descendant of the Appalachian grannies
Those
from the
Appalachians, that whole
right.
line is crazy. What's in those woods? That ancient shit
I
is
love it.
nuts.
I love it. And so they were the medicine women of the time
Yeah. I
and
actually,
delivered all the
oddly enough,
babies.
just read an Appalachian book
Right.
on their folk magic because again, I don't like labels. I'm not part of a coven. I'm not a witch. I'm not anything, but I like a little folk magic here and there.
You know what would be a great tarot show? If there were two or three of you and you had happy hour together and started flipping cards. That would be
That's
fantastic.
actually
People
much
would
more
watch
interesting.
that.
No, I've been approached, as I've Allison, but I've been approached by people to do it, and I'm always like, you know what it is with tarot? It's really personal. It's kind of like therapy. Nobody wants their, like you with those women. They don't want their
Right.
business in the street. They were probably
No.
like, shut up, because you're really hitting them at the core.
Right.
Like you're slicing through. Don't nobody want that on
Well, the
TV.
people the people that are younger, if they're asking about love or is my mother around me or a business success, especially with the business success and relationships, young people especially really love hearing the relationship stuff because they learn something through listening to us talk about those readings and the advice we give to people.
I
So
love
it's a
your
good teaching.
relationship essay or your
Oh, do you?
episode. So I do actually on the podcast because it is like you said, maybe it's an error that was fulfilled in another lifetime, but I'm always like, what is it I'm not getting about romantic? So I love hearing other people's
Right.
stuff.
Yeah, the
Because
torment, the torment,
sometimes
the
I'm like, I really enjoy my peaceful life.
right,
Actually.
the generational patterns that they carry on instead of breaking their karma to achieve their dharma, they fall right into it, even though they've been told that's not going to work. They'll try and fight it, and it's a good illustration of that, I think, for
What do you
viewers.
see coming up for like this Gen Z? We agree they're pretty neat. You've raised
Yeah,
some of them
yeah,
even. They're pretty, I think
I
they're a
like
little
Gen
like
Z.
us. I know. I
Gen
think they're,
Z, they mirror Gen X.
yeah,
So
that's what it feels
millennials
like.
mirrored boomers, which is why we didn't understand the millennials because they want to protest and talk about the feelings and, they're just a little bit more victimy. No offense to the boomers or the
Millennials. Yeah.
millennials.
Yeah.
But the millennials mirror the boomers. They both have special names as generations.
But is it because they're the second, but they're the divorce? Like I'm a child of divorce, and my millennial sister was treated like a little. I'm not saying it was great for her, but she
Right.
was the golden child, which brings its own problems. But I feel like millennials acted like that because boomers were like, we really messed up with Gen
Yeah,
X, huh?
that's true because the Gen X, like my mom's a boomer but she had me really young. And so I'm Gen X born to a boomer, but I was rare. So all my friends' parents were older than my mom. Um,
Oh, that's true because
so
my dad's still like 3 years older than a boomer, technically, was. Yeah.
okay,
I know
silent
what you're saying. They
generation.
were old. Yes.
Right,
Yes.
right. And so you see the dynamic where the boomers and the millennials are out there protesting together at different events. You see them together. They vibe. that energy, they want to make a difference. They're going to change the world. It's like, good for you. That's great. And then there's Gen X and Gen Z, where Gen Z's coming in saying, we're not going to college. What a waste of money. It costs too much. So they're signing up for trade school and making six figures. And they figured it out because they learned from millennials' mistakes. So,
That's true.
yes, millennials, a lot of them that were raised by boomers, are the ones who their parents felt guilty for
Right.
working too much, or so they compensated with money or giving them what they want so that they seem like a good parent. They're 11th place. They're 11th place until they prove otherwise. That's what they are. And
I
I
actually, as
have,
a Gen Xer, I kind of like being a latchkey kid, to be honest.
I
No,
did
I'm
too.
not saying latchkey, but I
We
like
got
coming
time
home.
alone.
That's
We
what
got
I'm
time
saying.
alone. We got the TV to ourselves. We got
Yes,
out the
make a peanut
cereal.
butter and jelly sandwich,
Yeah,
relax. Like
yeah,
nobody's
yeah.
on my back.
Yeah, right. We had my dad's gun cabinet there in case anyone broke in. It was like a different time, you know. I grew up in Arizona, and then we had
Oh, you grew up in
we also
Arizona.
yeah, born and raised, and then we have we had trained attack dogs, so they were real protective of me, and so babysitters could never check on me in my room in my bed because my Weimaraners would come, you know, they'd be on my bed and they'd look at her and growl. And so I always felt very protected, but I loved being a Gen X kid. We had great music. We ate too much sugar. They're right. The TV did babysit us and taught us things that our
Yeah,
parents didn't. And
yeah,
it's actually how I got started in wanting to grow up to work to put bad guys away. I saw the movie Adam that was made for TV, and I
yeah,
saw the
yeah.
Atlanta child murders. And those were the
I
first
remember
cases.
those.
Yeah, those were the
The
first
TV
cases
movies too. Yeah.
that I started getting information on. I'm like, I'm going to be a prosecutor and put bad guys away so they can't hurt kids. And that sent me on the path to end up interning in homicide to be a homicide DA, and which is when I sorted the crime scene photos and realized I saw what happened before the person died and realized I could work cases.
That's so you energetically, I know she's gone over all this, so forgive me everyone, but you can look at the picture and then you
Yes,
get images of what
yes,
happened.
yes.
How do you
And
shut that off for people who are like you who get it all the time? How do
this
you
is for
tune that
you
out?
too. This is for you too.
Yeah.
Sensitives out there, when we sleep is the only time when we can just have peace. If you turn on an Alexa and you say, Alexa, play spa, you know, and it plays spa music, it distracts that part of our brain that is
Yeah.
probing outside of us to connect with spirit or with energies outside of us. So it distracts it and it makes it so we can sleep. So I play that all night on a low volume, and it helps for any
I'm
intuitive.
a lifelong insomniac. Like I can remember
Hmm.
being one as a tiny child too.
Yeah.
So I used to put on like Eckhart Tolle's A New Earth. Like he has such a ASMR voice. Speaking like
Put you
this
right to
of old.
sleep,
Right.
right?
But I always wondered like and I guess I'm gonna be greedy and ask, do you pick up that I was gonna try to be good and not ask, but I will. Do you pick up that insomnia has anything to do with picking up energy, or that's just a physiological thing?
And, you know, just in the experience I have with other mediums and people in the realm, um,
Yeah.
most of us are night owls and most of us don't sleep well.
I
So
just she loves the night. I am such a night owl. That's why when we
yes,
were doing this in the afternoon, and I was like, "Bless you,
I
bless
got
you," because
you.
I would have
I'm
gotten
like
up at
3 o'clock,
9 a.m. for
okay?
you,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't have been happy.
Totally fine, totally fine. And so I think it has more to do with our abilities and us not being able to
Okay.
shut them down. So if you can shut down your brain, it helps. And then, you know, in my daily life, I used to wear my iPod, you know, my iPod,
Yeah.
that dates me, around and listen to music because it blocks out the dead so I can't hear them, which was an episode of Medium. So even for
Yeah.
people who are doing tarot, it's important, you know, to have time to yourself. It's borders and boundaries with the living and the dead.
Right.
You have
Well,
to
I
block
love
them
it.
out.
I love that you're talking about that because, again, when I'm writing this book, I'm like, first of all, I'm not a therapist, right? So, not trying to step in that
Right.
category at all. And someday I really just want to write a fiction book. But with this, I was like, okay, I do think I understand by this point in my life, I do think I get that had I had more boundaries in place or stuck to them when I was
Yeah.
younger, I would have
Yeah.
been, it would have been better. Or had I even understood the fact that a boundary is about my behavior,
Right.
not trying to control someone else's behavior. Although I don't know what's in your chart because I hear you talk about control. And I feel like I have control stuff, but with myself. It doesn't really play out with other people. Like I'm rarely gonna be like, you need
Fixed
to.
signs are controlling.
Is that what
Taurus,
it is? Yeah.
Scorpio, Aquarius, Leo. We control our environment.
Oh, yeah, no.
We don't
But see,
we don't
mine
like it.
plays out by being a homebody. Like this is the environment I can
That's how you control
control.
your environment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, for sure.
That's
And
why
I
I
don't know
stay at
about
home
you,
too.
I don't know
Yes.
about you, but I found Hollywood premieres and things like that. It's a lot. It's
Yeah.
a lot on the
It's a
psyche
lot.
and the energy because there's so
That's
much.
why that's why I hung out with the rockers when we lived in Beverly Hills. All my friends were in bands.
Oh my God, feel free to introduce me to some aging rockers. They're my weakness.
We were over at their house every weekend. It was like our refuge.
No,
So it
I
was
get that because they keep it a little more,
they're
it's a little
real.
less about the mask can slip a little more in
They
that.
didn't
There's still a
care.
mask. But
They didn't care. They talked music the whole time. They played their guitars. They talked about going on the road and writing songs, and it was interesting. And then
but this is such a
our
good point. It's
yes,
gravitating towards like-minded people, isn't it? It's
right.
going, oh,
It
okay,
is.
even though I have this invitation to so-and-so's house in
Right.
Malibu, it's
Right.
deciding for
That wasn't my
yourself.
scene. That wasn't my scene at all. We
Girl, I could
went
feel your pain. I really could. But that's
it,
why I was like, yeah, no, she's going for it in a way I would never because like I probably
you
don't
know
want to be
what?
ostracized. But you were like, I'll never be back, bitches.
I have no edit button. I never have. I never will. I spoke the truth.
Yes.
And I've written
Yes.
a chapter. I wrote a chapter that's called "Do you really want to know?" It's like, don't ask me a question if you don't want the answer. I gave her her answer, and she got it. So I think we could say that Kyle's a new fan of mine because she knows how accurate I am, and I saved her time in that terrible marriage. So
But it's
I'm
true. And
kidding.
it's but she's kidding, but she's not. Because again, there's so much she's not, trust me, but there's so much truth in are you sure you want to know?
Yeah,
Like don't ask.
don't ask.
Whether it's how's the size of my ass to
Right,
dot whatever it is,
right,
like maybe
right.
don't ask because you might be
I
around.
don't ambush read people. I would never tell them anything about themselves without them asking.
Well,
But once
I'm
she
glad
got me
you
all,
said ambush me because there's a
yeah,
lot of young girls out there who are like, I was approached by someone, they're like, I'm an empath. And I was like, amazing.
it's not ethical.
Well,
It's just not
first of all, I
ethical.
did feel like they were ambushing me. Instead of introducing themselves, it felt like they were
Right.
trying to get my attention instead of
Yeah.
just earn it, right? But then they
Right.
were like, I have a date later. Should I tell them? And I was like,
You're
I'm
like, so
sorry
you're
for the
coming to
rolled
me
eyes,
for
but I
you're you're you you have a date. See, you should have a relationship show.
but it
The
was, you know what
universe
it
is
is?
sending people to you asking you about
Like you
relationships.
said,
So obvious.
I can't even imagine what your DMs are
Oh,
full
I
of. Like
trust me. Yeah.
because people also with boundaries, again, why boundaries is important to me. Like if you're
Yes.
in Allison's DMs, like I enjoy Allison's work, right? But I've never once sent a DM going, what do you think is happening with my
Right.
relationship or my like
Right.
that's a boundary. This is what she
Right.
does. It would be crossing a boundary. And same with me. Like I don't your cousin, not my business. Whatever is happening.
Right. That's the nice thing about being friends with other people in the ethereal because they can do similar things to what we can do. And so if a friend comes to me who's a psychic medium who already does readings or they do tarot, and they ask me for something, I know that we can't get information on ourselves. I have no problem helping that
Oh,
friend
yeah, yeah.
be, because to me, that's not a boundary. They do the same for me, because I can't read myself. So, it becomes a respect coven,
That's
where we just
interesting. You
help each
can't read
other out.
yourself. You
Right.
can't read yourself.
Right.
So
I
do you
can't.
do you get relatives of yours coming through, or does that?
I mean, my dad helps me with my readings every week. I ask him to turn up the volume and focus the energy of the dead that's coming through, and he adjusts their energy so that I can hear them more clearly. Your dad could do that for you as well because they love to be part of our life. They're just
Sure.
waiting for us to ask. So my dad, but I think he and I are good. You know, I don't need to have a long conversation with them on, do you see the girls and how they've grown up and what they're doing now, because I know he has.
You know they
I
have,
know
yeah.
it.
I would
So
agree. A lot of the times, questions that people ask, I'm like, you actually know that one. There
right.
might be a
Yes.
different question to ask
But they
because
don't trust their own instincts, so they come to you for that. It's
that's
validation.
true.
They don't trust their own instincts. So when it comes to my people, yeah, I've seen my friend Domini who died years ago. I'll see her from time to time. Um, they really respect my borders and boundaries, so they're good about that. I did have to bring through a lot of Joe's relatives in my late 20s because they were in our house. And so I went
Oh,
through them one by one and gave him the information, which he passed on to his mother and also kept for himself. And one by one, they would disappear once the information was passed,
interesting.
except for his grandmother, who would sit in the rocking chair next to Sophia's crib every night, and we'd hear it sliding back and forth. And Joe would go, "What is that?" I'm like, "It's your grandma. It's fine. She's keeping an eye on Sophia." I was totally comfortable with that idea.
I
So to
I
me,
think
I love the dead. I love them. They're
you just gave such
amazing.
great information right there for people listening, which is to have the conversation,
Yes.
right? If you feel the
Yes.
energy, engage with the energy and
Yeah.
have the conversation. And I was thinking like an analogy for the trusting it is, if you have a glass of coffee, a mug of coffee, and you walk across the room and you don't look at it, you
Right.
don't spill it. But if you look at the coffee while you're
Right.
walking across, that's when it spills. And
And
I
if
did. It's true.
it's true. And people with abilities are really kinetic too. We will knock things over. Things will move
That's
in our homes, and that's just who
that's.
we are.
I do get a lot
So
of stuff moving and things like that, and I'm
I
like,
have no doubt.
but most of the time the energy around me feels fine. It doesn't feel mal, as I say. So I don't really try to chase it away like
You
people
have
talk
really
about.
positive, you actually have really good energy and you have
Oh,
really good
good.
borders and boundaries. So you wouldn't be feeling darkness around you because most of the time it won't be around you. Dark is repelled by light. So the light
Well,
that we exude is repelling to them, which is why they're drawn to the weaker
uh,
minds, you know, the
that's
drug
a good
addicted, the
point.
people.
Like, oddly enough, it was the TV show Twin Peaks, because again, I wasn't
Yes,
raised religiously, right? But like,
right,
Twin Peaks taught me, because at the end, spoiler alert for a 30-year-old TV show, right? It's like, who killed
right,
Laura? And it turned
right,
out to be this spirit, Bob, that jumped.
right,
It was her
right.
dad. He jumped from person to person. And that was the first time religion didn't teach me that a demon could enter or a spirit. Twin Peaks taught me that, actually, in a way that
I
I could understand.
I saw them since I was a little girl, so I knew spirits existed. But the first time I saw it played out on, there were two things. One was the Disney Channel, and it was when there was a little girl's spirit living in the
The Girl in
attic.
the Well? Wait, which one?
I'm not sure. I loved it. And there was
Was it
one that
was it she a
where
French girl who lived in the well who was a ghost?
I think that was one of them. And then there was one that had like a crystal doll or
Oh,
something
okay.
that was in the attic. So Disney made it real for me. I love the Haunted Mansion there. That was the only place I ever wanted to go. Like they didn't know I was me. And and then somewhere in time, my dad took me to see the Christopher Reeve
Uh,
Jane Seymour in
yeah,
the
yeah,
early 80s, somewhere in time.
yeah.
And at the end, when he dies and they reunite, I'm like, that makes sense to me. That's it right there. That's what happens. And I just knew it. And I looked at my dad and I went, that makes sense, Dad. I get that.
Gosh, I wish
So
I had her the certainty and energy around it, because it's really beautiful to witness, to be
thank
honest,
you.
to feel that energy.
Well, if you're ever in Scottsdale, you know where to find me. You have,
I may have to join your Dead You, actually, at
hey, if
some
you
point.
want to, we're having I know that my students would love to have you there, but we're having our first summer camp in Sedona,
Oh, amazing.
Arizona. and we're
Oh,
doing it July 11th through the 14th. And so 3 of the professors will be there, me, the astrology, and earth magic. And our students are flying in from around the world. And we're
oh,
going to go to a
beautiful.
vortex. They're going to learn how to read chakras. Margaret's going to work with them on their tarot and crystals. And then I'm going to do a mediumship circles with my students. So we're going to spend a weekend just getting down in the magic
Oh, how
in Sedona.
fabulous.
So
No, I
if you
mean, that's everybody knows it's like a vortex kind of a
Yeah,
place,
right.
Sedona,
That's where we're
you know?
going. There's multiple vortexes, so we're going to do that. But if you want to come, you've got our number. We already rented a bunch of houses, and I'm pretty sure I've got a spare room in ours, so you could come
Oh,
stay
no,
with
that's not,
us.
geez, I may take you up on that. Because, to be honest, from my world in acting, I kind of have been connecting more in the last like 5 years, let's say, with
Hmm.
people who are in this kind of
Right. Well, this is
world. And
probably where you're supposed to be writing screenplays that would make millions
yeah,
of dollars at the
no,
movies and
no,
on
you're
streaming
not wrong.
services.
No, you're not wrong about
Yeah.
that. And this
Right.
latest book is teaching me about structure. That will
Right.
help
Yeah.
with the
All right.
screenplays and all of that. Because I loved, there was a little story you had about writing your book somewhere, just like in a spooky place, like,
Oh, it was our cabin in the snow, and everybody was gone because it was summer home estates, and I was the only person there, and I was snowed in, and it was scary as hell. It was so quiet there, and I was finishing my 4th book at the time, third book at the
I
time.
admire the tenacity to write the books, by the way, because I have to discipline
Thank
myself. All
you.
right, I've kept her forever. I've so like enjoyed
That's
this. I hope you can tell how much I've enjoyed this conversation with you.
We'll do it again. We'll do it again. You were obviously a delight. I vibe with you, so you come back anytime to promote your cards and any programs you have, which they can find on your. Do they find you
Yeah,
on
mostly.
Instagram?
You know what? I'm kind of I'm not entirely on social media that much, but if I am, it's in my
Okay.
Instagram stories. I'm True Rachel True, so it's my last name and then my name, True Rachel True on there, and then my book and deck set is True Heart Intuitive Tarot. That's what the box looks like.
Love it.
Uh, and I encourage everyone. It's just a way to kind of check in, not just even if you don't want to develop your intuition, but why wouldn't you? Because if you're listening to the show,
Right.
you do. It's a great way to I also call tarot cards a shrink in a box. So if you need to calm your ass down, it's
I
a
like
great
that.
tool for that
A
instead of,
grounding tool.
well, yeah, because sometimes we call our friends and we're in that pitch, we can't expect our friends to always live in the minutia of our brain. That's why I like
Another
tarot.
fun fact about learning tarot is if your friends find out you flip tarot cards and read tarot, you will never go to a party and not be the most popular girl at that party ever again. Everybody
That's
will
true.
say, "Did you bring your cards?" Right?
That's true. Although that's why you have to have boundaries in place sometimes if you just want to go and
Some
enjoy a party.
people, some people actually want that popularity though, and they want to be needed and sought. It's like
Oh,
if you're looking for invitations to parties, you'll get invited to all the parties. Go get some
that's
tarot.
actually true. That's
Right?
actually
It's
very
so
true.
true.
Yeah.
So,
Again, this has
so
been so delightful. So
yes,
Instagram is mainly where I am. I'm not really on. It was a relief to when once Twitter crumbled. It was kind of a
right.
relief, to be honest. I don't
Yeah.
miss engaging like that anymore. So
I haven't been
mostly
on Twitter
Instagram.
in forever. Now
Yeah,
X, but I
yeah.
hadn't been on
I'm
Twitter in
kind
forever.
of
It had
refocusing back on my own life
Twitter
instead of
had the
those.
worst trolls. Twitter had the worst trolls, and Instagram has the worst con artists, like
Oh
the
no,
people
right.
pretending to be us and doling out readings
Well, again,
for
that's why
money.
when I got messaged by her
Scammers.
Allison
Yeah.
and her,
Yeah.
I was like, you got to verify that stuff. Always, always,
Yeah,
always, always out there.
absolutely. And if
I'm
the
starting to live in
address,
this. Oh, sorry,
right,
go ahead.
if the address is different than how we spell it, it's not us. I have one Instagram. Do you have one Instagram?
Yeah, that's it. That's
There you
it.
go. All right.
Just one,
Well,
and I think
thank
I'm
you,
verified.
Rachel
Thank you.
True,
That's
for
really my last name, by the way.
I
I didn't
love it.
even
It's a
make that up.
beautiful name. It's perfect. It was such a pleasure having you on the show. Come back anytime. And thank you to my listeners. Tune in next Tuesday for a fresh episode of The Dead Life. I'm Allison Dubois. This is The Dead Life. And for all of my believers out there, don't stop believing.